Well, it's a State of the Nation address, the very last of this administration, and the president will be delivering it as mandated by the Constitution. But what are we to expect? My guests this morning, from Professor Lord Mensa to Charles Nyaba to Dr. Ayamga to Dr. Peter Anti, were not holding their breath for the president to say anything new. But right before we cross over to the floor of Parliament, I hear the president has arrived. Joining me in the studio, Winston Amwa. You would often hear his baritone on Joy 99.7 FM, and there's also Raymond Aqua. You would hear his voice as well. They'll be joining me helm this discussion. But there you can see in your shot, Mr. President arriving at Parliament. Kweku Asante, our parliamentary correspondent, is on hand. Kweku, tell us, what can we expect as far as the SONA is concerned?
Just arrived, he's currently inspecting the guard of honor. The president has just arrived, he's inspecting the guard of honor, and we expect that very shortly he will be walked into the chamber of parliament by the Speaker of Parliament and the leaders who have gone ahead to receive him. And so,
hello, Kweku, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Benjamin. I'm saying that the president has arrived a short while ago. He's currently inspecting the guard of honor outside of Parliament, and we expect that in the coming minutes he will be ushered into the House by the Speaker of Parliament as well as the leadership of the House. In fact, if you look in the chamber, you see that the minority benches are filled because the NPP MPs are indeed in the House, almost a full House. We expect that all of them will be in. But if you look on the minority side, it's an empty House. We do not know what exactly the strategy is and why exactly they are not in. But we know that they will be here.
What exactly the strategy is and why exactly they are not in, but we know that they will be here. That is the expectation, that they will be here. The former president, John Dramani Mahama, is also in the House. And so it's a full House with the exception of the minority benches, which the camera will show you in a minute. It will pan. It will show you how the minority benches are empty. It is not exactly clear why the NDC MPs have opted not to come to the chambers as of this moment, especially since the president has arrived in Parliament, and very shortly we would expect that he will be ushered into the House by the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, and the leadership of the House. The days have also been cleared. You see the ceremonial chairs, the ceremonial seats also now made ready in anticipation for the president walking in to deliver the State of the Nation address. Early on when I spoke to you, I told you that this is expected to be a very short ceremony, because not much is on the agenda of Parliament, and right after the State of the Nation address, the House is expected to adjourn and come in tomorrow to continue business. Early on also, we had concerns and information that the Speaker of Parliament was expecting to pass the controversial anti-LGBTQ bill whilst the President was in the House. But if you look at the other paper, there is nothing of that sort on it now. And so we expect that with the President now in Parliament and expected to deliver the State of the Nation address, his message on the State of the Nation as is enjoined on him by the Constitution, he will do that, and then the House will adjourn. But again, it is very interesting that not a single NDC MP is in the House as we speak. The majority side is full, the pews are full. But if you look on the other side, not a single NDC MP here. We have not been informed what exactly the game plan is, what exactly the strategy is by these NDC MPs. Are they boycotting this? What exactly are they trying to do? Are they sending a message to the government side? We will know in the coming hours. So, Benjamin, all is set now, and all we expect is for the Speaker of Parliament to go out there, receive His Excellency the President, Nana Addo akufo-addo, bring him in, because already the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, is already in Parliament. We understand he is waiting in the Speaker's lobby, and when the Speaker of Parliament and the leadership of the House also receives the President, they will bring him in as well, and then they will come and take their ceremonial chairs in Parliament, and then proceedings will start. Again, we have engaging the expectation of members of Parliament ahead of this address, divided alongside partisan lines. You have the NDC MPs really saying that the president is not expected to say anything new, that the president is not expected to, in fact, give any idea in terms of how the economy has been faring. And earlier on also, I told you about the placards. I already see a number of NPP MPs brandishing placards, white sheets on their desk. Thank you for one district, one factory, and a number of things that they think that the president has done. They are going to brandish that when the president starts his address today in Parliament. if that is anything to go by, then that will also mean that the NDC MPs, the minority, will also have their own placards, which they will be showing when the President of the Republic comes in to address Parliament. The President, the central themes we expect that the President will be harping on has to do with matters on the economy. The President is expected to tell us how the economy is facing now, the IMF deal, how is it improving the state of the economy currently, and where are we in a negotiation with external debt, external creditors in terms of that. And also, you see Osei-Chairman Sabonsu there, the former majority leader. He's been in leadership for so long, and today he is not in the normal black seat. In the last 7 years of President akufo-addo's tenure, he has always been the majority leader. He has always led the House when it came to the State of the Nation address. But today, he has taken a back seat. He there speaking to the Minister for Energy, Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, sharing some ideas ahead of the President coming in. So, Benjamin, that is the state of the House. It's a packed house. If you look at the public gallery, you see the service chiefs, the diplomatic corps. Almost everybody is ready, awaiting that the President of the Republic will be ushered into the chamber by the Speaker of Parliament and leadership of the House, so that proceedings can get underway. And as far as we are concerned, everything is ongoing now, and all that is left is for Nana Dango Akufo-Addo to come in for proceedings to begin.
Kweku Asante, grateful that you could bring us the scoop from Parliament, and we'll be crossing over to you intermittently, especially when the main event is about to start. But let's come here into the studio, and as mentioned, Winston Amwa, Raymond Akwa joining the conversation. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
I've already had some interactions this morning, as I've already mentioned, and some people were basically saying, nothing new, that's what we can expect. But let's take a look at what we recall from the last SONA versus what the reality is, and maybe just a general overview of what we remember from the last time the President spoke and this time round. Interestingly, former President John Dramani Mahama has not always attended these state events. Today, we hear he's there. But the interesting twist being that members of Parliament on the minority end can't be found for whatever reason. Raymond, I'll start with you.
Now, he mentioned the state of the economy, and let's be quite clear, that was a very turbulent time. So he talked about the average price of petrol at the pump, which has risen to 20 cedi a litre, going down, that's in December 2022, going down to 13.80. He talked about the price of diesel too, and the change there. He made a key statement on Gold for Oil and said the Gold for Oil program will preserve Forex. We know that we are abandoning along the line. And we didn't even continue with the conversation on that. And he admitted that the currency has been buffeted, the inflation has been very high, and for the first time in our lives, he said also that debt exchange has become the language of every conversation. That was an admission that he also made. And said inflation rate at the end of March 2023 was at 45%. We know that somewhere along the line before that time, it went up to 54%.
Up to about 54+%.
Yes. And in fact, he also mentioned, interestingly, that in 4 years, since he had been president, before that period, 106 companies are in operation. And this is supposed to be under the one district, one factory, and 148 companies or factories are under construction. Part of what he said as a president. He moved to education. The president told everybody during that speech that he had provided Wi-Fi to some 700 senior high schools across the nation, 46 colleges for education, 260 district education officers, and there's an initial pilot of a sort, which he said was successful in 13 public universities, Wi-Fi. And
Dr. Peter Anti of IFES this morning, he got into that conversation. 70+% of them can't be, can't be traced, can't be found.
Sure, yeah, but well, that is what the president boldly stated the last time that he mounted that platform. He also said that construction has started in the Agricultural Science University in Bunsu in the Eastern region. And nearly 2 million young people have benefited from the free SHS policy. As of the 2023, he talked about drones in health. He also talked about the other developments like vaccines and other things that we thought were supposed to be coming on board. And they have increased the proportion of the population with access to toilet facilities from 33% to 59%. That is what the president also gave the indication on. Now, on agric, he talked about warehouses, advanced stages of completion, 65 of them anyway, 29.9 million worth of machinery being procured from Brazil to boost mechanization and agric sector growth. He bunched them together, 2017 to 2021. He said it was 6.28. So basically, we had the president listing the achievements that, of course, making some admissions there about the economy, about issues to do with the currency, about interest rates, summing it all together to say that there have been good times, there have been bad times, that we was hoping for better times going into the future. That is basically what the president told us in his last presentation. Will this be different? I do not think so. I think that he will trumpet a lot more things that he believes have happened over the period. He will tell us that, well, the last time I came to you, I was telling you that inflation in March was somewhere around 35%, 34%. Now it is already around 23%, which will tell you some improvement. That's what he's going to say.
There's been a slight increment.
Yes. He's going to say that.
And of course, month on month, we never touch on that.
We are on the path to recovery. He will say that we have completed our engagement and we have gotten through the second tranche of the IF money, so we are supposed to be doing very well. He also said that other institutions across the world are beginning to trust us now. He will not mention the fact that we are still out of the capital markets today. He will not mention the fact that we are still not paying the amount of money we said we will pay because we have deferred some of the debt till the years coming in the future. He will give hope, perhaps in a way to rally a lot more support for the campaign that his party will be executing pretty soon. So those are my expectations. Would that reflect the reality? Would that be incidental in the lives of the people that will be listening to him? I do not think that after 7 years, many can hear the president. And if you give me 1 second, I'll go to some of the things he had said as far back as the year 2017, the very first one that he gave. He said,
and it's interesting you do that because some of my guests this
Ghana
morning
beyond
said
aid.
we had to weigh him, compare this SONA to the SONA from that period.
He said it is a Ghana beyond aid. But today, we were cap in hand begging everybody to try and help us with debt forgiveness or debt arrangement. Even getting China to come to the table and join the creditors in the conversation was very difficult. You have to throw in everybody available in that conversation to let that happen. But he would move on to tell us that, well, we are still have very heavy positives within the period.
Winston, for you, what?
Mr. agrees that there's been many positives.
Why are you foisting your opinion on Winston? Let him express it. So, what would be your total recall? What sticks to mind from the last time, and what would be your expectations? Are you even expectant?
Well, of course, I would expect akufo-addo to say a lot of things. Would expect, the president to account for his stewardship, and I agree with those who have said that during the State of the Nation address. You want the president to tell us where we are as a country, where he wants us to go, and how we are going to get there. And so you would hear the president talking about where we are. He would tell you about, the fact that in 2023, when he was there, he was talking about a liter of fuel being around 13 Ghana cedis. Now it's below 13 Ghana cedis, to around 12. He also would tell you, for instance.
Unless it's diesel.
Yes, I mean, yeah, but of course, that's what I'm saying. It's going to tell you, is to tell you that
because if you're using diesel and strike an average,
he also would tell you that inflation that at the time was around 45% today is around 23%. What he would not tell you is the fact that if you look at the rate of inflation, if you look at the rate of inflation and juxtapose that with the rate of salary increment, you have nothing left. You don't have anything. What he also would not tell you is that your personal inflation is always higher than the average national inflation. And I have consistently made this point. I've always used, a staple from the northern part of our country, the Upper East region that I know of, dog meat, for instance. And I've said that dog meat has a weight of 0.00%, Benjamin. Now, in the heat of rising inflation...
When you say the weight, you're referring to inflation in terms of inflation.
As I said, it has a weight of 0.00%. It contributes nothing to the...
I say in the basket.
In the basket,
exactly.
So when I say weight, it means that, every item in the basket has a weight, and it is by that weight that we calculate our rate of inflation. Right. And so, if a lot of Ghanaians buy diesel will come with a higher weight, with more weight than petrol, for instance. If a lot of Ghanaians buy tomatoes or say buy bread, it will come with more weight. And so the point is that you actually could be, buying something that has more weight than a particular commodity. And so your inflation may be higher than the national average. That's what I'm trying to say. And I was just using the point about dog meat to say that in the heat of things, when dog meat had a rate of inflation of 100%, its contribution was 0%.
Exactly.
And so that's really not. So if you look at it, you say, the inflation is at 23%, 54%. But hey, you're not really, your inflation is more than 54%. And even how we go about it, we've had conversations about how we calculate inflation. And so it's used in determining, macroeconomic indicators and all of that. But the reality is that your situation may not always be worse than what you may see, maybe sometimes better. And so you would hear President talking about that. You would also hear the President talking about his achievement, free SHS. What the President may not tell you is that over the period, you've had parents, even though we've promised a free education, parents would have had to, according to the Africa Education Watch, have had to bear about 77% of the cost of taking their children through schools.
In addition to all of that, you are buying bunk beds. I've had parents, if they are going to eat, in some places they have to PTAs have to secretly contribute because the food your children are getting, sometimes you get porridge and there's no sugar, there's no bread.
So the President is also going to tell you about the fact that millions of children have gone to school and have benefited.
2 million from the last time
free SHS. What the President is not going to tell you is that about 200,000, almost 200,000 of these students have not gone to senior high school, even though they actually gained admission to be in senior high schools and have gone to private secondary schools. That's clearly an indication that people are shunning, the public school, which hitherto was the pride of every parent. We all would go to schools and be happy that we're in secondary school, But today, that's not it. For many parents, and I've had some of my mates who've sent their children to private schools, and I was saying, why didn't you take her to Maoli school? He says, do you like this stop, start system of education? Now, these are realities, and I always make reference to a point that, Dr. Bamia has consistently made, and I agree with him. The fact that the state of the economy, the truth about the state of every economy is how you feel in your pocket. And so your state, your reality is what defines an economy. Yes, we've gone through difficult times. I mean, I'm not going to shun away from the fact that over the period we've been affected by COVID, but it's always about the fact that, how resilient was our economy even before COVID struck, and how resilient was our economy before we were hit by the fight in Russia and Ukraine. I remember having a discussion with Dr. Charles Rekubrobe, and he was asking me, of all the monies that we borrowed, which of it did we supply to Ukraine to aid in their war? But that's just by the way. But that actually defeated, for instance, all the things that we had been trumpeting in the period. If we had a problem, Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And when we talk about it and we say that, look at the UK, for instance, my goodness, the UK has to import gas and other things from Russia. You say you import wheat from Russia. And you ask yourself the simple question, what happened to all our conversations?
And the Russians showed proof.
Yes, showed proof.
Of your imports.
Of imports from Russia.
Showed proof that they are not a contributory factor. In fact, your major factors.
Yes.
They showed, they basically embarrassed our states.
Places like Egypt, where the word for bread is literally the same word for life, where they felt, the northern belt of Africa, they felt it biting. And we try to compare ourselves to them.
The point I was trying to make is that if you looked at, the 2022 budget, 2023 budget, for instance, we went into 2023 talking about building resilience and sustained growth, and also talking about value addition. That was only an indication that previously, all the things we talked about doing by way of value addition, by way of building a resilient economy, was something that we were never able to do. And so what I would want to hear from Akufo-Addo today is that President Akufo-Addo must admit, no matter what you do, times are hard. No matter what you do, the conditions of the people are bad. Admit it. Admit it. And say, based on the problems we find ourselves, I believe a few things must be done. You may not be able to do them, but as you indicated during the NPP primaries, that the next government, you would expect an NPP government, I don't know which government comes And as whatever happens, there will be a new government because Akufo-Addo doesn't qualify to contest elections again. Whatever happens, President Akufo-Addo must admit today, he admitted a bit in 2023 about the difficulties that today domestic debt exchange was the order of the day. But what he really has to admit are some of the failings. Look, let posterity be the best judge. Now, people are suffering. Admit the failings of your government and
how can you admit when you have the likes of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who is now flag bearer? Nurses are suffering, teachers are suffering, this and that. You can't spin that rhetoric and then come and admit that you are suffering. The same way he spoke about the exchange rate and fundamentals and how you'd be exposed. You can't speak to the issues, can you?
No, you can admit that times are hard.
You can?
You can admit. Why? He said teachers are suffering, nurses were suffering in 2016. This is 2024, for Christ's sake. This is not 2016.
How do you explain that they are still suffering?
Well, but that's the reality. And that's why an admission is key. When J. Akufo, it's like when J. Akufo admitted that he's sorry. Sometimes when you're in opposition, you see things differently. In government, you're hit by the reality. We said, okay, this is a man with integrity. This is a man who admits his failings, having criticized in the past, but has acknowledged the fact that now that I am in government, I think things must change. Look, let's face it, times are hard, let's face it. And today, what's the rate of inflation? 23%. You might actually think it's good. It's not good. It's not good because you are Benjamin Akakpo sitting here. You are not in the public sector, okay? And if you decide to, sack your employer, and you don't get a job immediately, you're going to join the numerous of people, the 1.85 million people who are unemployed. Is that what you want to do? You don't want to do that. And so you find yourself in a situation where today, can you even walk to your employer and say, increase my salary? And he shows you his expenditure, his cost, and tells you, oh, Benjamin, this is how...
On Sunday, the Tema
what can you do?
chairman of the GNCC, Ghana National Chamber of Commerce, was here. And when he broke down for us, from the cost of utilities to the cost of borrowing to everything, how can they even employ? They are rather cutting off.
What are you going to do? And so that's why, and this is the point, you've made a point, but I just want to draw your attention to something. When you're in a government, and as much as the NPP will try to do this, when you have your running mate taking over from you, and your running mate forcefully indicating that he has his own agenda, if you are the president, it must be food for thought. The running mate consistently saying he has his own agenda. The running mate consistently saying that I was an advisor, and the running mate consistently saying that the finance minister was in charge of the fiscal, the governor of the bank in the monetary, and I was to complement their efforts at the transformation of the economy. And if the running mate, when things are good, says, yes, these are things I did, but is quick to say, I was an advisor, it tells you that the president may have, probably taking decisions that today, they look back and say, those are not the right decisions. The last bit I heard would actually shock you. That even when it comes to e-levy, the person all of us believe implemented or advised the president on e-levy says, I didn't do that. I'm not going to mention it. You can figure out that yourself. The man who led e-levy says, I didn't do that. But this is the point. If you're running, if your vice president, okay, says, I'm going to abolish e-levy, it tells you one thing.
He says if the VAT on electricity, 15%, if it is implemented, I'll come and take it off. That for me was...
It tells you something. If he says, I'm going to remove emission taxes, it tells you something. If he tells you, I'm going to abolish betting tax, which I disagree anyway, it tells you something. But that, of course, it's not about me. It's about, if collectively we agree that it should be scrapped, why not? But it tells you something. It tells you even the focus of the economy under Akufo-Addo. And I think that, and I believe that in the last 10 months of Akufo-Addo's administration, when we were young, there was this song that we used to sing, do something before you die. I am not saying he's going to die, but his tenure ends. And so let us remember him for all the good reasons and put the past behind us.
Raymond Akwa, we also remember last days are what?
Dangerous?
Dangerous.
I think they are defining moments for the president's legacy. Whether he likes it or not, a lot of things have happened within the period. First, if I were to be the president, the very things that Dr. Bawumia says, when I come in, I'll do it. He will start doing some of them. Not only is he going to keep Dr.
To make the work of Bawumia easier.
a fighting chance. To improve his chances, start them immediately. So that people do not think that it's just because the Bamia question every day haunts the entire MPP and President Akufo-Addo for a simple reason. We were told Bamia was the magic wand. I brought him here because he helped Kufuor fix the economy. Yes, so that he will be very instrumental. So the man we said was the talisman to help fixing the economy is being believed to have done little or only provided advice, which was not taken. Then why do you tell us that you brought him to actually help fix the economy? Because the belief was that this was a different person, a departure from career politicians, somebody who understood the economics of this country and had proposed solutions in times past.
And somebody who himself had taken up the mantle at the start, do you remember?
Yes.
He would put out there, do you remember the former economic manager? Do you remember anybody?
Yes.
He put himself on that pedestal.
So I'm saying that President Akufo-Addo better believe the man that he said would help him fix the economy. Now that it's pretty obvious the man is indirectly saying my advice was not taken, or I had opportunity to say things, but they were not really what ran the economy. If you give us that indication, the president can now, even if it will sound simplistic, even if it will sound a bit too late, the president still has a chance to cement himself in certain areas. Businesses believe President Akufo-Addo. If I see the reaction to the first time the budget was read and say we had reduced some of these taxes, the 17 or so, they were very happy. They said, oh, the guy is coming for business. And this is Ghana. In fact, he said Ghana was open for business again. That was instrumental. That was key. Leaving office, you need to remind the people that this is the Akufo-Addo that people voted for in 2016. Right. And those are the things that perhaps I would want to hear him do, rather than harp more on the I've done this, I've done that, and I'm still doing this,
so
I'm doing that.
You would be disappointed if today's SONA turned out to be some sort of echo chamber. From the past, rather than yes, of course, in the SONA you would expect some reflection, scorecard of what has happened.
80% on touting his successes, but in the 20%, let just 10 be about the future of this country, and that in my defining moments, leaving office, this is what I'm leaving with you people as a Ghanaian population, as business groups that heavily believe that was the way forward, as groups that believe that this is the kind of presidency that I'm bringing on board. Remind the people who Akufo-Addo is supposed to represent in the first place. Perhaps that will send a new signal. And even if it's for parochial partisan reason, it will be good for party NPP too.
Okay. Winston, I noted that you wanted to...
Yes, I just want to do something. And so I have in front of me, okay, I have gone for the government's revenue for 2024. And I want to make, so this is payee. First of all, I want us to look at the CIT, income tax, corporate income tax. That's
so you're referring to pay as you earn.
Yes, no. This this CIT, companies income tax. Okay, so this is 28 billion. 28 billion. Now we're told that when it comes to income taxes, and you can also, this is corporate. Let me add personal and add the two, and I want to do something.
Why are you lumping them together?
Well, when you add personal, it's 23 billion. You add the two, it takes you to 51 billion. We're told that 81%, there's a gap of 81% when it comes to income tax payment.
Yeah. The deficit.
Yes. Yeah. As in, there are people who are working, there are companies, entities that are working in this country, and they don't pay these. So this is according to our medium-term revenue strategy document. Brother, these are not my words. These are not my statistics. Let me not say, oh, I have found that. I haven't found anything out. Yeah. It's just government.
It is you,
finance ministry, has prepared this. Think about, so if I take this, that the 50 billion is the 20%, okay? If you add another 4, it is what? 200 billion. How much would that give you? 250 billion, that alone. This same document, we're told that even VAT there's a gap of 61%. Let me show you VAT, 37 billion. So let me take 37 billion being 39%. It means that we can actually get about 50 billion more.
50 plus billion.
When you add that, it gives you VAT of what? 87 billion. So 87 plus 50, 250 billion. That is how much?
That's 330 billion thereabouts.
That's a lot of money. The other taxes have not come in yet too.
Yeah.
So you see, if your whole expenditure is 259 billion, which you have a deficit,
Yeah.
and you can actually get this amount of money, more than 300 billion. But that's not all. The vice president who advises the finance minister and the governor of the Bank of Ghana, per his role as chairperson of the economic management team, he just is expected to advise as to whether the advice is accepted or not. Is a thing for debate. We can debate that.
A question for the gods, eh?
He, Dr. Bamian, says there's a gap of $24 billion when it comes to revenue gap. $24 billion. Multiply that, it gives you what? In excess of 260 billion. So my brother, if you have this money, do you need to burden the poor person with e-levy? Do you need to burden the poor man on the street with consistently paying for increases in fuel prices where we're paying so much taxes on fuel? Now, this is where, if I were President Akufo-Addo, there's something I like so much in life. If you can do it, do it. I'll tell you a very funny story of Alhaji Karim Gruza. When somebody went to his park, a player who had come for Justify and said, oh, nobody a position, he says, oh, maybe 4, maybe 5, maybe 6,
story before.
8, 7, or 7, free park. The vice president is telling us what he intends to do. It's part of the government. Akufo-Addo should let him deliver these.
He's still chairman of the...
Yes, they must deliver these things. You see, Akufo-Addo should actually help the vice president to deliver these things before they go.
But is it practical? Is it practicable for him? For example, he said, and you say you disagree with him. Hold a second.
It's a practical question that you're asking that I want to just chip in on this one.
Right.
See, the economy, right? Between now and the year 2024, 2025, January 7th.
I think I know where you're going.
When Dr. Bamian will take over, I can bet my bottom
dollar. Or Mahama will take over, any of them.
Yes. There isn't going to be a massive injection from anywhere in the world. Let's be fair to ourselves.
Right.
So it's not as if when you do it now, it would affect 2024 in such a way that it cannot recover. In any case, what are we talking about? He mentions e-levy. Government admits that e-levy has not always achieved the purpose.
Let me tell you.
Right now, it's being touted that it's earned over 1.19 billion, at least not close to the 450 million.
My brother,
getting at that point.
My brother, e-levy. Let me look for
the latest figures. I mean, it points to 1.19.
I'm trying to share with you. So e-levy is projected to earn 2.1 billion. How much is that? How much is that? 2.1 billion. Wow, you can't do without 2.1 billion. You can't actually put in place today proper measures to actually raise revenue, okay, of more than 2.1 billion when we have a gap of $24 billion. And so you want to burden people. Look, for those of us who send monies around, who send monies around a lot, my brother, there are times that you, in a month, you can actually spend more than 500, you pay more than 500 cedis in e-levies. That's the amount of tax you've paid just by sending monies around to people.
And you know the funny part, the president and even the vice president and former President Mama are all talking about fintech. This is financial technology.
Yeah.
And you cannot pretend and purport to promote fintech when you are putting in regulations or systems that really discourages people from using the available tools of it.
And the fintech space, I get in there a lot. EcoBank and others, building that space. But it's like robbing Peter to pay Paul, or cutting from both ends. You're in one breath, you're saying, "Oh, we want to support this industry," but in that same sector, you are cutting them every moment you get.
That is why when the chairman of the economic management team says that, oh, it's not going to promote.
Whom are you referring to, Dr.
Vice
Bawumia?
Yes,
You mean that conventional?
No. We cannot dismiss it. And see,
no, but I'm not dismissing. I'm only saying it's conventional.
I'm saying that conventional conversation we are now having about the economic management team has not always been our perception.
But it's not constitutional. It's conventional.
And so what?
It's conventional. It's
and
not
so
constitutional.
What? There are various
in other jurisdictions, conventions are key.
Yes, I mean,
very important.
In the UK, for example,
yes.
We have held states, and it's not me who created the economic management team. The vice president had cause to reference that team. The president himself, those days, during similar events, State of Nations address, how he talks about the economic management team and the very work they are doing, how he selects the ministers and gives them praise for the great work they are doing. That is the same thing we are expecting him to do. Let them do their work. Let the chairman implement, if not all, one of his visions, which will help you as a party, you as a government. It sounds incongruous that on one side, we are so convinced that we have the brightest of the brains on that team. On the other side, the impression is being created that those bright people are not being heard. So their bright ideas are to be postponed to 2025. I mean, to what extent?
It honestly sounds ridiculous.
Yes.
You have, it's like saying Black Stars, I mean, the team is not doing well. We actually have the best players in the world, but somehow we don't know how to manage these players for them to win. It sounds very outlandish.
When we make these points, and I've consistently, I mean, one of the things I like a lot, I like conversations about money, and so I've been interested, for instance, in approach to generating more revenue since 2017. And I remember having conversations with the late Dr. Ibrahim Bediye, for instance, and we had talked about everybody being known to tax authorities. And so when, for instance, they said that, for anybody having even Momo, you should use your tax identification number. We said that's a great step, okay? Because you cannot be enjoying free SHS when we don't know you. Knowing you is one thing, paying taxes another, but we need to first of all identify you. Then after some time, we said the Ghana card number becomes our tax identification number. Fantastic. So, today, all these things have been done. Why are we still where we are today? I say enough has not been done. And there's a letter I've consistently quoted from 2014 when then Deputy Commissioner of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Anthony Doku, wrote to the Deputy Chief of Staff then, indicating that there was an estimated loss of revenue at the ports, totaling 36 billion Ghana cedis. Go and check 2014, how much revenue we generated as a country throughout. The port alone.
But now we have ICOMs and everything in between. Are we still bleeding?
You want the truth, right? If you want to know the truth, today import something from certain parts of the world. Go through the system and see whether we are not bleeding. We're still bleeding. We're bleeding.
In spite of ICOMs and digitizing all of this.
My brother, we're bleeding. Would I lie to you? Recently, I've had to pay duty, so I know what I'm talking about. I mean, I wouldn't lie to you. We're still bleeding. And people have found...
On an interesting note, someone was telling me the other day that, I was right there. The person was checking from someone there how much it will cost. And you know what? The person who was doing the checking was charging him for that service.
Look, I mean, I've seen...
The one on the website.
Look, I mean, I'll be very honest with you. When I complained about the duty that I had to pay for something I brought into the country, somebody told me that he was willing to actually introduce somebody to me, and I said, hold it right there. Let me pay. Because I knew that this day will come when I will be here and talk about import duty. So that if you didn't pay the right thing, you wouldn't have the moral high ground to complain. But that's the reality. So the point is that let us deal with all the wastages. Somebody told me one day that, look, he could bring in foreigners into this country who would guarantee us a certain amount of import duties and then be in charge. But I say, why do you want to do that? Because consistently we have proven that we just cannot manage anything that we touch in this country. That's all I am saying is that there's evidence. And look, I don't like going into other things. I just go into government-owned documents. And I've been sharing those documents with you. These are government data. These are projections from the ministry. And from all the projections, one thing is key. It is possible. It is doable Today, we can abolish the taxes and still survive. But how on earth in God's name do you go to the IMF and tell us that you haven't mismanaged the country, leading us into an IMF? You're no longer going there to reduce expenditure, but you're going there to increase revenue. And increasing revenue, you don't increase revenue by actually blocking leakages, but you actually increase revenue with the introduction of new measures, new taxes and new levies. What's the meaning of that?
And it's as if we have just launched onto the claim that, tax to GDP ratio is somewhere around 13. We should do 18.
That is very problematic, even when you look at the sub-region.
As if all that we need to do, no matter what happens to the economy, we just need to push and get more people or impose more taxes. How about how wide the tax net is?
Right.
How about the very ingenious...
The fact that we are going very vertical instead of going horizontal.
And Winston referenced the medium-term revenue strategy. Some of the things we have said about what is the problem with our taxation structure, we knew them before 2016. We knew them during 2016. And we've been with them since 2017. The expectation is that you show proof of how you have actually dealt with some of these basic problems that everybody who understands small tasks can actually identify with our system. But we only go in circles and choose the easiest way out. Easiest is go and impose further ones. Somebody ought to go and collect that money from them. But what they end up doing, and there's a theory that suggests that when you impose tax on people and they feel that you are doing them in a retrogressive or that's the word, regressive manner, what they end up doing is finding ingenious ways, and they call it tax planning sometimes. Sometimes they even use other nice words to. Now I'm told there's
avoidance. Avoidance plus.
yes. So you are not running away from it fully. You are finding other means to try and get your way out of it. But how does that aid this republic? Especially when we are in a country where people do not feel that the amount they are paying is even being put to good use. So merely adding more taxes is a crude way of telling me that I need to find more ingenious ways of avoiding the payment of your taxes.
You'll get more people moving from tax avoidance, which is legal, to tax evasion.
Even so. Now, the thinking that we should put to our system does not require merely touting achievements. We have real work to do. We have real action that demands that we go along our colleagues. Let's not pretend that we are not the Koikos of South Korea today. When we start off at independence, our GDP was 5 times that of South Korea. True. In fact, per capita income was way higher than that country. Today, it's the other way around. They are way ahead of us.
Malaysia.
In fact, it will sound unreasonable to put us in the same bracket. Those are the things that should underpin our conversations about state. But we are best consistently interested in the petty small things that only engages in this party is in power, that other party is in power.
Right.
Today, you tell me, what has been the biggest lessons we have learned from the COVID period, the domestic debt exchange we went through?
We have a vaccination center or something.
Yes. We said to ourselves, that we have a post-COVID economic recovery program.
Yeah.
Gentlemen sitting here, have you seen that document?
I haven't.
I have looked for that.
I'm sure that's what they sent to the IMF, maybe.
But you think about it.
So if that's the case, then I've seen it.
But you should share that document with us, because that's your way out of it, your way into a prosperous nation. But the people, and we are not, to all intents and purposes, even ordinary people, we have privileged access to information that sometimes the ordinary person. But if we do
and
not
even
have
when we don't get it, we can go to the RTI and push. And even there.
If we do not have access to these documents, how is it possible that the ordinary person who will be driving your change into the future is the ones who have set policy, who actually will implement policy on the ground, and if they oppose it, it will not work? How come we are running without them on this pedestal?
Good question. Winston, recently, for something we're doing in-house, we had to go procure some books. 6 books, over 500 CDs. The tax component, over 22%.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? But within the same period, we are giving tax waivers to the tune of billions. On that front, I want to know what your thinking is, because it appears we say we're poor, at the same time we're giving out so much in a sense that sometimes doesn't even make sense.
The idea of a tax waiver in itself is not bad. It's our implementation which is problematic. The moment you make tax waivers a families and friends thing, it's problematic. So it's a way of sometimes incentivizing people. I mean, people are coming into your country, they're going to be engaging in construction projects, they're bringing in equipment to use in your country. You don't actually want to charge them, but they're actually coming in there to assist you. There's some people, some people are coming into your country, they're bringing in foreign direct investment. You want to incentivize them, and some of these tax incentives will be the way to go. But the question simply is this. At what point in time do you say, hold on a minute, let's stop and take a second look at it? Yes, we've passed the law and all of that, but again, we still find ways of beating the law. We still find ways of going about it. There's been conversations of how private entities have had tax waivers and what the benefit of those constructions and those projects, for instance, will be to the state. I say that until we recognize the need to first of all think national interest, we always will abuse some of these tax waivers. But of course, they go to Parliament too. They go to Parliament, okay? The tax exemptions, they go to Parliament. They approve them. And then they come back to us and join us to lament. So it should start from Parliament. And that's why I agree with when Professor akufo-addo says that the most powerful institution in a republic, Parliament, has become a two-thirds bulldog, and they join us to complain, sadly.
Yes, but you also know that the dynamics of our parliament mean that once, even when you have a majority divide that is on a knife edge, the majority will have its way. You will have your say.
Let me just make this.
But the majority will have its way. We saw it with the E-levy. We've seen it.
Let me just make this point
so many times.
Let me just make this point before you continue. It is the reason I think the Speaker's ruling, when he had not been invited to rule on who becomes majority leader and whether the party has a say, is so...
You mean the recent one?
Recent
on
one.
On the back of the new standing orders.
Exactly. It's so unacceptable. Now, the standing orders are clear. Then the Speaker says, in the case of a dispute, he should not pass a judgment.
But he says caucus basically means party.
Where did he get that from?
You do realize that just as in a court of law, you interpret the law. In Parliament, he interprets what exactly pertains.
He, Speaker, knows. He knows. And I'm not going to get into the debate of it, but if it's anybody who loved our democracy, he wouldn't give such a ruling. And I'll tell you why. Because the moment you do that, you're actually allowing for parties to control members of Parliament. In serious jurisdictions, people go to Parliament and can take their own positions.
But in those jurisdictions as well, even in the UK, the party still whips people in line. In the US, the party whips people in line. His party, the Speaker's party, did this last year. They did the same thing.
When the party tries to whip people in line, you saw the Conservative members actually telling Boris Johnson that we've had enough of you. Okay. You are not a man that should lead this country. As much as he tried, his own party asked him to leave. Okay, you've seen, for instance, in the US, some people going against party positions. But that's how you go. And did they lose their seats because they went against party positions? They never lost their seats because they went against party positions. Mike Oquaye made a mistake, and Alban Bagming is making it worse. When Mike Oquaye actually dismissed the former MP, saying that because he had been sacked by his party, he had no business in Parliament.
Right.
I'm saying that if we want to protect this democracy, one of the things we must do, people would actually, they pay the parties to get into Parliament, and then the party wants to govern through the back door.
And of course, the former MP became the stone that the builders rejected. Honorable Esiama. Let's cross over to the floor of Parliament now, because there's some action happening. I do not know whether the minority MPs are taking their seats yet. We've seen the former president getting. Kwekwa Asante, what's the latest you can share with us? Hello, Kwekwa. What's the latest you can share with us?
MPs are still not in. We understand that is because of some concerns they have about the Bank of Ghana governor having called them names. That is what they say. They say the Bank of Ghana governor has called them names, and if the Bank of Ghana governor does not apologize to them officially, they will not. They are also protesting the decision by President akufo-addo not to sign some 3 bills that Parliament passed last year into law. And so they are doing a protest. You can see that none of them are here. The majority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, we understand, is frantically trying to get the minority buy-in to come in, because they cannot have a State of the Nation address with only one side in Parliament. Of course, constitutionally and legally they can, but what is the optics? How does it look with diplomatic corps, clergy, so many members of Ghana society, cream de la cream already here, and there will be no NDC MP. So that negotiation is currently ongoing, and very soon we want to know what exactly would have happened to that negotiation, whether or not there would have been an agreement for these NDC MPs to come in. But there are quite some dignitaries here. I can see the former PNC presidential candidate, Mr. Apasera, is here. I'll try and gauge his thoughts. Mr. Apasera, you are a former member of parliament. How was it when State of the Nation address was coming in like this? You see the minority MPs, they are not around. What is normally going on during such moments?
Well, during our time, we never experienced something like this. I know that there are issues maybe to be resolved amongst the MPs. They may have some concerns that they want to get resolved. But I think that once the president is going to speak to the whole nation, representatives of the people should be there to listen, because some of their constituents would like to hear or interrogate what the president has said, and you cannot answer that from outside. So I am sure maybe they are trying to put things in order, but they will appear. I suspect that.
What are your own expectations ahead of the president coming in to address the economy is in crisis? What are your own expectations as a former presidential candidate?
Well, certainly last year the president came and promised Ghanaians hope, promised to stabilize the economy. And so far, we can say the economy is somehow stabilized now, but things may not be as rosy as we would have expected. So certainly there are difficulties. And we are hoping that the president will come and give us hope for the next year, so that by the close of this year, things would have improved.
Thank you very much, Mr. Apasera. Mr. Apasera is a former presidential candidate of the PNC, and he's sharing his expectation ahead of the State of the Nation address that the president is set to deliver in a moment. But a lot of persons that I see in the chamber today, I'm going to try and gauge some of them and try and get the understanding of what exactly is happening today. So this is the president set to deliver his State of the Nation address. A number of key issues expected to come up, and we are going to try and gain some understanding of the president coming in today. I'm very sorry, but we are trying. It's a very packed chamber, as you can see. The public gallery is normally not packed like this when the president is delivering the State of the Nation address. Hello. Oh, okay. I can see the chairman of the National Peace Council here. Hello, sir. What are your expectations ahead of the president delivering his address? What moments to come?
Well, there's a constitutional requirement, and therefore we're here to listen to the president to hear what he has for the country at this moment.
I mean, because I have you here, let me try and get a word from you. The Boku situation, are you happy with the closure of the station?
Nobody is happy with the closure of any radio or television station. But you are aware that last year we launched with the National Media Commission the document on hate speech and indecent language. And we expected that all radio stations and television stations will abide by these guidelines. So once people flout these things, there's nothing that the Media Commission, because they were part of the preparation of that document, and I'm sure that is part of the reason why they've taken the steps they've taken. So we expect that all media stations will comport themselves. Let's be mindful of what we say and how we say it, and don't instigate the public.
Thank you very much. That is the chairman of the National Peace Council. And I'll try and engage some more persons. I see the president of the Ghana Bar Association. Hello, sir. What are your own expectations ahead of the president delivering the State of the Nation?
Oh, we're expecting to hear something that is going to bring us together, accelerate our development, consolidate our democracy. And we just pray that it's not a very partisan speech, because these occasions are not state organizations, they are state occasions. It's a constitutional requirement. So we want to hear something that unites us, not something partisan. That's my expectation.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. That is the president of the Ghana Bar Association telling me what he expects. I see Charles Niteko at the office of the president. We are live on Joy News. I just want to gauge what you expect ahead of the presidency. I mean, you're part of the communication outfit. What is the general public expected to listen from the president when he addresses the nation? Charles, can you give us a word?
Okay, good morning to your listeners and viewers. I want to believe this is a constitutional requirement for the president to tell the nation how far his administration have been able to govern the country. I expect the president to talk about the difficult times we went through during the IMF bailout and how successful we've been able to meet the requirement for the first and the second tranche. And I know things are going to get better, and I'm so much assured that by the close of the year we'll turn the corner, and then the economy will bounce back to where it used to be before the unfortunate COVID, Russia war and everything. So I know that the president will definitely talk about the difficult times that we went through and the haircut and all those things. And I know he's going to thank Ghanaians for standing with the government and to make sure we're able to have a successful program. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So that is Charles Niteko. He works at the office of the president, telling us in terms of the expectation. The president is expected to come in any moment from now to deliver his message on the state of the nation. We see the majority MPs, a full house, but their colleagues from the NDC side not having taken their seat. And the kind of information we are picking is that this has to do with some housekeeping matters. The minority MPs raising some concerns about the remarks that were made against them by the Bank of Ghana governor and a number of things. So I'll try and speak to a few more persons as we continue our coverage here. I see my lecturers from the University of Ghana, Dr. Isaac Owusu-Mensah, Dr. Agridako. These are persons who taught me political science in Lagos, so it's good to see them. I'll try and talk to them. And Mr. Agridako, you now have a very big position now. You are the head of the civil service. And what are your expectations ahead of the president coming in to address the nation?
Why are you doing this to me? You know, State of the Nation address is a very vital public document, you understand, which is critical for the service. As you are aware, the major object of the civil service is to assist government in the formulation and implementation of public policies and programs for national development. And so we tap into the State of the Nation address with the budget, the State of the Nation address, party manifestos, the ruling party manifestos, among others. These all constitute some of the critical source documents that we use as civil service to look at the reconfiguration of the public bureaucracy, you understand, and look at what it is that the government intentions are and how those intentions, inevitably translate into the policies and programs that you are. And you know that a bureaucrat is as good as the quality of information that you have. And so contextualization is important. And so to be able to make good policies, you need to situate it within a certain context. It's the reason I'm here with my chief directors, to look at what it is that government has been able to do. And if there are areas that we need to reconfigure, why not? We go back to the drawing board. So it's contextualization, building capacity, certainly, for the national development effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doc. I'll go back to my other lecture, but I also see Napagatia here. Hello, madam. What are your expectations as the president is set to deliver the message?
I think that there's been a lot happening in the country within the last 1 year since the last State of the Nation, and today being the very last of his statements to the nation, he's going to touch on various sectors, especially developments. We talk about the road system, the creation of new regions, where former President Mahama is alleging that we haven't done much in the new regions. If you take a region like Oti, the number of road projects, unfortunately I don't have the figures, but if you take a place like Oti region, the number of road projects, if you take a place like the Northeast region, Somastro Test, we have a STEM school established there. You go to the Savannah regions, the new regions are a bit new, and therefore it's not going to be so magnificent, I would say. But then there's a lot going on in these regions that I'm sure he would touch on, both in the road sector, the education sector, the health sector. I mean, it's going to be a whole lot. He's going to talk about a lot today.
Thank you very much. So Napagati are giving us some information in terms of what to expect. The former president, whilst in the Savannah region, had talked about how the new regions have not been developed at all. But she has provided some information. Well, I see now that some NDC MPs are now taking their seat. Early on, a lot of them had not come in at all. The former minority leader, Harun Idrisu, has taken his seat. A number of the MPs in the 5th PU have also taken their seat. Also for the MP for Krache has also taken her seat. And so they are now coming in, and with these proceedings, we expect that very shortly, sitting will start and then the president will deliver. Dr. Isaac Owusu-Mensah is the director of planning, monitoring and evaluation at the office of the president. Doc, what are we to expect in terms of the last 8 months? But in politics, that is still a lot of time to be able to make changes. What are we to expect in terms of the economy and everything? You work at the presidency. What should Ghanaians expect?
Thank you very much. Our expectation, our hope is not about what the president is going to say, because I will not be able to say anything before the president say anything. But in terms of the economy and in terms of the general growth of the country, we expect that the economy will do better. Given the indicators that we have and the prognosis that we have, we expect that the economy is going to do well. And if the economy is doing well, it means that the cost of living will certainly come down small, and also the standard of living will improve. So expect that there will be more political stability, and also we are going to the elections. There will be a lot of issues here, but we are expecting that there will be minimal violence as we go into the elections as well. I'm sure you've seen what happened in Boko in the last few days in respect of the shutting down of the radio station. It's a means by which we can help us also to control the stand on the growth of the conflict in that area, and consequently we are also expecting that will tone down and there will be more stability in that region, and for all of us to be happy about that.
Thank you very much, Doc. Dr. Isaac Owusu-Mensah is at the presidency. I see here the Minister Designate for Health, Dr. Okoboy, who's already been touring. I mean, he's set to launch a new book chronicling how Ghana fought COVID-19 and how Ghana was able to warn. He's been to the Chief of Defence Staff, he's been to the Speaker of Parliament, giving some indication in terms of what to expect. So, Doc, you are writing that book. When you met the Speaker, I was there, you talk about how apolitical this will be. Will this be a partisan explanation of how we won the COVID fight?
Well, I think COVID made us come together as one people. And so I think the book itself is a testament to what we can achieve if we come together. I think the level of bipartisanship went down when COVID struck. And so it will be an interesting read, if I may say so.
Thank you very much. It appears the Speaker of Parliament